If you are using text messaging to find the motivated sellers for your real estate business, this is a critical video. In a few months, the laws will become official, and either A, you're going to be facing fines, or number two, you're going to be facing lawsuits from people that are coming after you. I'm going to lay out for you the 3 different options that you have in order to find yourself deals and get out of text messaging. If this is your first time here, my name is Cris Chico. I'm considered the godfather of virtual wholesaling. I've pioneered many of the strategies that you likely have heard about or even use in your real estate business, including direct mail and 24-hour recorded messages and a host of other things. And I lived on welfare and on food stamps, and eventually was able to have success through real estate investing and through wholesaling. And my objective here is to help and guide you so you can also achieve your dreams and your financial success through real estate. So the problem that we have right now is that there's a new law that was passed called the Trace Act, which really puts a stranglehold on what a strategy that a lot of real estate investors have been using for a couple of years is text messaging, where they get a group of prospects that they feel are qualified for them to want to sell their property at a discount. They're taking those prospects, they're skip tracing, which means that you're going out and getting the phone numbers for those individuals, and then what you're doing is you're sending them text messages. And depending on your level of investing, some people send out a few hundred messages a day, some people send out a few thousand messages a day, and I've heard of investors sending out as much as 60, 70, 80, 100,000 messages in a single month. Because of all this influx of text messages that are going through the carriers, through AT&T, Verizon, then they're looking at this and saying, we've got to put a stop to this because it's clogging up our network. And also a lot of people are just getting unsolicited texts also as well, and people have been complaining. And so that's where we're at with that problem. So now that places a problem for you as a real estate investor if you're using this as your principal strategy. So there's really 3 different strategies right now that you would consider. Strategy number 1 is cold calling. A lot of you have likely tried or are doing cold calling to find motivated sellers. Now, cold calling, there's pluses and minuses with cold calling. The plus with cold calling is that it requires the least amount of money from you when you're getting started, if you're doing it at a low volume. Because if you're getting, say, a small group of people in your local marketplace, let's say a list of people that are behind in their taxes, and it's a relatively small list, 100 people, it's very easy for you to go out and to then get the phone numbers for those people and just use your cell phone number in order to go ahead and call them. And then you'll have success with that. Another strategy that works great around cold calling is if you do driving for dollars. So you're going out, you're getting a handful of properties, less than 100, you're getting the phone numbers, you're calling those individuals, and just having a quick and easy conversation and finding out if they might be interested in selling their property. So that is a very economical way to get started. However, as you grow and as you want to do more, it becomes very difficult for you to do it just from your phone. So what happens is that then it goes from a low-cost strategy to a higher-cost strategy, because you need a dialer, which is a software that allows you to put in a bunch of numbers and call a bunch of numbers simultaneously, so that way you can get through many more numbers. If you can't do it yourself, then you end up hiring a virtual assistant or a company that has virtual assistants that then will dial these numbers for you and then eventually come up with a handful of leads every single day that you can talk to. The other problem with cold calling is that it tends to be saturated, because if you're going into a marketplace and in your local market you decide, hey, I'm going to call some tax delinquent properties, chances are that there's going to be a lot of other people that are going to be wanting to call those same people. So a lot of times when you're cold calling, you hear someone say, hey, you're the 3rd or 4th person that has called me this week about my property. And that becomes very difficult for you to do deals, because now you're in competition with other people. One tip I would give you with cold calling is there a way that you can go out and cultivate a list of prospects that nobody else has access to? And usually that happens in the local area. For example, in Broward County, and this would apply to any county, you can go out and get a list of people that are, of landlords that are evicting their tenants. Now, that list is not a list that you can purchase anywhere. You can't go to PropStream or you can't go to any website and buy a list of property landlords that are evicting their tenants. That list, you have to go into the public records, you have to search for those people specifically, find the lawsuits, and then be able to know who they are. Well, that's a list that is, it's not a list that you can scale and do hundreds and hundreds of deals a year, but it's certainly a list that you can, as a beginner, get access to and then do your first couple deals. That is a great list for for you to cultivate, as an example, and then go ahead and skip trace, find the phone numbers for those individuals, and then go ahead and give them a call. And that is a great list. So as a beginner, if you're going to be doing cold calling, my recommendation is to focus on really small lists that you yourself cultivate, that are not being attacked by other real estate investors, and that's going to make your time with this strategy a lot easier. Negative with this strategy, it is an outbound strategy. So the outbound requires time from you. So it's not a strategy that you can implement and then now while I'm doing something else, then that strategy is working for me, bringing me motivated sellers. I got to be on the phone calling and dialing those individuals. So it's a strategy that requires more of my time. The also negative with the outbound strategy is that they don't know you. These people don't know you that you're calling, and so there's a lot of friction there in the beginning of the conversation because they're wondering, who are you? Why are you calling me? Are you legitimate? And all those other things. So that's different than if you incorporate an inbound strategy where you have people calling you. So now it's a warm conversation. They reach out to you. You're reaching back out to them. And so that means that now they're predisposed to want to talk to you. The second option, if you want to get away from text messaging, would be direct mail. And that's a strategy that I pioneered many, many years ago. I started direct mail back in 2004-ish or so when nobody was doing direct mail. I remember I would send out 1,000 postcards and I would get hundreds of calls. And those were the good old days. Now it's not the same. If you're going to incorporate direct mail, there's some pluses and minuses. The plus with direct mail is that you have inbound leads. So you can go out and do your direct mail. You can then now just be doing anything else. And these people are receiving your postcards and they're going to be calling you. And so now that's a great strategy because of that. They're inbound. Inbound means that they are calling you. So therefore now it's a much easier conversation. You don't have to, tell them, who are you? There's a lot less friction in the beginning part of the conversation, right? Versus you calling them out of the blue. Now, the negative with direct mail is that it is very costly. In order for you to, let's say on a cost per lead basis, typically you're dealing at, I talked to an investor the other day that they're paying in Houston, they're doing direct mail and their cost per lead in Houston is almost $300. So $300 to get a lead off of direct mail. So that's a negative, which means that now in order for you to make the strategy effective, you've got to put in a lot more money into the cash register in order to at least get in the game. And that's really something for you to consider whenever you're looking at these strategies, is that not only how much do I need to get started, but how much do I need to continue to put in money after I get started with the strategy in order for me to give it a chance. The same thing applies to the cold calling. If you're going to tell me, hey Chico, I'm going to try cold calling for this week and I'm going to maybe cold call for 5 hours, and then at that point then I'll decide if the strategy works for me or not, I would say, well, that's a problem, because you really need to consider, hey, I'm going to cold call 30 to 40 to 60 hours total to generate enough leads to then be able to make a decision about that strategy. So keep that in mind. Same thing with direct mail. If you're going to do direct mail, I would say that you need at least a minimum of sending out 2,000 postcards a month for at least 3 months, and that's just bare minimum. Ideal would be 5,000 or so postcards a month, every single month for the next 3 months, in order to give yourself a chance to succeed with that strategy. The average cost of postcards is 40 cents, and you're sending out 5,000 postcards, and I'm going to do a quick calculation, 5,000 postcards a month times 3 months times 40 cents, that is $6,000 plus the cost of the list that you're going to have to buy for that as well, and the cost of the phone system, and you need a CRM. So all those things add up. So again, you have to be mindful of what is not only the cost to start, but the cost to give it enough time to decide if it's going to be a strategy that's worthwhile for you or not. Other negative with direct mail is saturation. It's very easy to get started with direct mail. When I got started with direct mail, there was no postcard company. There was no easy way to get a phone system. Everything was difficult. It was very difficult to get a list. And so then there was a barrier to entry. Nowadays, you don't even need a guru like me to help you with direct mail. You could just call a direct mail company and tell them, hey, I'm a real estate investor and I want to go out and send 5,000 postcards a month for the next 3 months. What do I do? And they would help you. They would say, okay, no problem. We'll get you the list, we'll get you the postcards, and within a matter of a few days, you'll be up and running, and now you're sending out direct mail. And so that's great for you if you're looking to get started. So it makes it easier for you, but it also, because it makes it easier for you, makes it easier for everybody else, which means that now then you're going to have a lot more competition. Now, the last way to generate motivated sellers, option number 3 for you, if you're looking to get out of text messaging, would be using online marketing and digital marketing, which is my favorite strategy. When I talk about that, I'm talking about a paid marketing strategy. I'm not talking about posting on social media and making content. I'm not talking about search engine optimization so that when somebody searches on Google, then organically your results show up. That's another strategy altogether that I don't use. I'm talking about paying money to be able to have Google and Facebook target the right prospects for you. Those strategies, the positive is it's an inbound strategy. That means you're dealing with prospects that are predisposed to talk to you. They have seen your ad online, and there's a certain amount of legitimacy, more so than the postcard. Because the postcard, they're just seeing the postcard in the mail, so they don't really kind of know. But I think sellers place a greater amount of legitimacy when dealing with you as an investor if they feel that you have an online presence. Why? Because it's 2021. Everyone has an online presence. Again, also it's an inbound lead, which means that you have once you set this up, the system in terms of generating motivated sellers with Facebook and Google, then this is a system that works in the background while you're doing something else. So unlike cold calling, where you have to be on the phone, sitting at your desk, making calls, here you set this up, and throughout the day, leads will be coming in, and as they come in, you deal with them. So that makes it a lot easier to deal with. The other positive with dealing with online marketing is that you are typically getting sellers that are not on other people's mailing list. So when a lot of people, when they're doing a marketing strategy such as direct mail and cold calling, because of the fact that it costs, say for example, with direct mail costs a lot of money, then you really have to fine tune and be targeting a very small group of prospects, right? You're not going to target 400,000 people in the city. Why? Because you don't have the money to do direct mail. But when you're doing online marketing, that entire marketplace is available to you. That means that your ad is being shown to potentially hundreds of thousands of people, and that's what you have access to at a relatively small cost. So then that means that then you're going to get sellers that would normally not be on anyone's list. Now let's talk about some of the negatives. Negative with the strategy, as with direct mail, is that there is, it's less than direct mail, but you have to put money into the cash register in order to make the strategy work. And you have to be able to put enough of it into the cash register. So unlike direct mail, it's less, but say as a rule of thumb, I tell someone coming in and saying, hey Chico, I want to try some Facebook ads. I want to try and maybe spend $100 in ads and see how it goes. I say, well, you're wasting your time. You got to look at this at spending, at the bare minimum, I would say $500 a month for the next 3 months. Better would be $750 a month, and an ideal would be $1,000 a month for the next 3 months, spending on ads in order to be able to generate motivated sellers, enough of them, so that then that way you have a chance of doing a deal. I do have other videos that I'm going to be publishing, so make sure you subscribe to the channel, because in next series of videos, I'm going to break down really the cost of doing online marketing with Facebook and PPC, so you have a really clear picture of, okay, out of those two, which is going to be the one that's going to be the best for me. I'll cover that in another video. Another negative is that it can be difficult to figure out. There's not a whole lot of information on YouTube about running Facebook ads and running them effectively. I know I have a lot of content here on my channel, but what happens is that you have a lot of people teaching Facebook and or teaching Google, but they're not really real estate investors. So they're really general people teaching this strategy for attorneys, for dentists, and then now they're going to teach it to you for real estate investors. I'm like pretty much one of maybe a handful of people that know this strategy and are also in the real estate investing niche. There's also people out there that are teaching it that are actually my students that originally learned this from me, but there's not that many people. And so it becomes more difficult to get information to that for that information. And also there's nuances associated with the platforms that are just difficult to get started with. I have thousands of students and I have so many testimonials. All of my testimonials are from students that originally started from zero, not knowing anything about ads, and we were able to get them up and running successfully. So it's not an impossible task. However, it does require some skill and know-how. Now, some people ask me like, Chico, I'm not really tech savvy. How can I know whether or not I can do online marketing? The best way I can describe it is, let's say we look at your level of competency in being techie on a scale from 1 to 10. 10 is being, Chico, if you told me to build the next version of the Facebook app, I'm going to go ahead and on the weekend, I'm going to build this whole thing out. That's a 10. A 1 would be is if I said to you, hey, I need you to Google how to do this online. And you said, Chico, what is Google? that would be a problem, okay? Then at that point, I would say maybe learning how to do online marketing. So as long as you can go on Google and follow directions and follow a checklist, then you can do it. And again, I have students that have gone from not being on ads on a platform, and within a couple hours, they have their first ad up and running. So I'm just saying that to encourage you to say, look, as with anything that you're starting out brand new, if you're looking at the strategy, whether for me or anybody else, in the beginning it's going to be difficult because you're trying to take everything in, but little by little it becomes a lot easier. My strategy that I recommend right now is digital marketing. Why? It's inbound. So you have warm leads coming in. Number two, inbound also from the perspective of you have a system that works in the background while you're doing something else. You're doing something that most real estate investors are not doing. Meaning that if you walk into a room of real estate investors, of 50 real estate investors, and you ask them to raise their hands and say, hey, how are you getting your deals? The majority of them are going to say text messaging, and they're going to be like sweating bricks right now, cold calling or something else. And very few of them are going to raise their hands and say, hey, I'm finding deals on Facebook. So you have a great opportunity if you attack this particular strategy. So bottom line is that you don't need to panic and say, oh my gosh, my real estate business is going to implode because I'm not going to have a way to find motivated sellers. You will be in that position if you don't start right now to figure that out. My recommendation is digital marketing. And if you're interested in digital marketing, then right here somewhere is going to be another video that'll pop up that'll walk you through my strategy and how to generate motivated sellers on Facebook and on Instagram. And now you can see what's required, and maybe, just maybe, you can start generating leads online. So check it out.